is Monday, April 10th, 2017, and I call to order this meeting of the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees. Before proceeding with tonight's agenda, I would like to remind everyone in attendance that the meeting is being recorded through video and audio technology. At this time, I ask that everyone silence or turn off your electrical devices. Thank you very much. Ms. Woods, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes.
And do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Robbins, you may continue with opening exercises.
Good evening, President Richard, school board members, Mr. O'Brien. The opening exercises for the April 10th, 2017 board meeting will be presented by students from Asheville Smith Elementary. The opening exercises ceremony prayer will be led by Mr. Laredo. Would you please stand?
Please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Dear Lord, we ask you to please bless over us tonight at this meeting. And we ask you for our students and teachers that are going off for a long weekend for this Easter, and to take care of them and have them all come out back safe. We also ask you for our nation in these very dangerous times, that you bless us and help our leaders make good decisions that are best for all members of our country and the world. We ask in your name. Amen.
The pledges will be led by Melanie Medina and Sochi Morphine.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, indivisible.
You may be seated. The following students will perform the Recorder Shuffle and the Blues. Alejandro Aguirre, Electra Alexander, Jasmine Alvarez, Carol Amaro, Andrea Barragan, Violet Benjamin, Mia Bocardo, Brianna Dills, Diorana Flores Nageli, Lizette Hernandez, Melanie Medina, Sochi Morphine, Alexandra Nava Alessandro, Evan Olivio, Alejandra Rodriguez, Brianna Rodriguez, Elizabeth Toussaint, and Heidi Vasquez. These students are under the direction of Shannon Chance, Interim Principal Suzanne Keith, Principal Martessa Humphreys, and Assistant Principal Luis Munoz. This is from our, we have an online music curriculum that we've had for the last 2 years, and they have recorder units, and so this comes from our actual curriculum that we're doing. And these are actually my choir kids, but they're all 5th graders, so they also do recorder in 5th grade, so we thought it would be something fun and different to actually, come in playing an instrument instead of sing. All right, So we're going to end it with Recorder Shuffle. Are y'all ready? Everybody know who's playing this part?
Great job, Ms. Chance. Thank you very much for bringing your students over and sharing some of their talents with us.
Thank you.
Would the parents of these students that are with us tonight please stand so that we could recognize you? Thank you for bringing out your sons and daughters to us. Thank you.
Great job, y'all.
Good job.
Reporters, ready? Here go!
Okay. All right, I'll do it. I'll read it. You read it? Sure, I have it.
Right here on my screen.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, next item, we have recognitions and acknowledgments. And Ms. Robbins, I'm going to take over the first one. Okay. Our first recognition this evening is a resolution honoring Mrs. Olivia A. Messiah, who is a former board member. And unfortunately for our community, we lost Miss Messiah a few months back, and we felt it would be best to honor her with the following resolutions. Whereas Olivia A. Messiah was the first African-American woman elected to the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees, and whereas she was a part of the Goose Creek Consolidated Independent School District as a student, longtime educator, and member of the Board of Trustees in single-member District Number 1, and whereas she began her tenure on the Goose Creek Board of Trustees with this thought, working together, we will make a difference. And whereas she first and foremost was known as an advocate for all children, and whereas Olivia A. Messiah, while serving on the Board of Trustees, was responsive and accountable to all citizens and taxpayers, while being concerned about the quality of life of all district employees, as well as academic excellence in the Goose Creek schools. and therefore the Board of Trustees hereby passes a resolution declaring Monday, April 10th, 2017 as Olivia A. Messiah Day in Goose Creek CISD. Action item.
I move that we resolve such.
I second that motion.
We have a motion from Ms. Woods and a second from Ms. Coffey that we approve this resolution and enter it into our minutes. Any discussion? All in favor? Please raise your hand. That motion passes unanimously, 6 in the affirmative with 1 absent. Okay, Ms. Robbins.
Each year, the Houston Area Association of Bilingual Education, ABE, selects a bilingual and an ESL Teacher of the Year for each participating district. Teachers are nominated by fellow coworkers and administrators, with the ABE committee reviewing and selecting the finalists. Beacon Federal Credit Union has provided plaques for the teachers being recognized. Adelina Absher, Director of Business Development and Marketing at Beacon Federal Credit Union, will join us up front to recognize our teachers, along with our Director of Bilingual Education, Pilar Moreno Recio. First, we have Wendy Madrid, teacher at George Washington Carver Elementary School, who has been selected as the ABE Bilingual Teacher of the Year. Laura Ina Hunt, teacher at Baytown Junior School, has been selected as the ABE ESL Teacher of the Year. We congratulate Mrs. Madrid and Mrs. Hunt on this award. Both teachers will be acknowledged and honored at the ABE Teacher of the Year award ceremony on Saturday, May 6, 2017. Attendance is an important factor for our district, not only for funding from the state, but for the benefit of students to receive instruction. Each 6 weeks, an attendance report is generated to identify the attendance percentage for every campus. A campus from each level, elementary, junior school, and high school, is recognized as having the top attendance for the district. Our top 2 elementary campuses for the third 6 weeks are Lamar Elementary School with 96.44%. Representing Lamar are Paris Alvarez, Sheila Ortiz, y'all can come on up, Raul Blanco, Oswald Salinas, Haley Capri, Simon Sanchez, Gia Graham, Cassandra Sorbia, Celeste Herrera, Zachary Taylor, Michaela Kellum Rivera, Jose Trejo Perez, Omar Leyva Rivera, Ana Valerio, and Principal Cammie Hale. And I do believe these students all have currently perfect attendance. Can we move this? Hold on just a second. All right. Congratulations. Our second elementary campus is Highlands Elementary School with 96.33%. And I have a few details about the students that are representing Highlands. Representing Highlands are second grade student Jordan Dixon, first year perfect attendance student, Ezekiel Martinez. He will receive his 5th year of perfect attendance. Haley Walter, 4th year perfect attendance, and Alberto Ortegon, 5th grade student with his 5th year of perfect attendance. Also representing Highlands is Principal Edward Villanueva.
Come on, let's see some smiles, guys. Scared to smile.
Our top junior school is Highlands Junior School with 95.72%. Representing Highlands Junior School are Isabella Galindo, Taylor Haggerty, Irene Martinez, Teresa Loria. She is our attendance clerk, and Principal Gary Guy. Our top high school is Goose Creek Memorial High School, represented by Nora Hoffling, Joshua Protain, Skylar West, and Principal Susan Jackson with 92.49%. Hold on, one more. Impact Early College High School had 95.9% attendance, being represented by Bryant Arias, Eva Bernal, Nikki Batka, Isaac Iznaga, and Principal Laura Reyes.
Slowly dimming.
We had 2 alternative campuses that met the district goal for the 4th 6 weeks. Peter Highland Center had 82.7, represented by Kyle Badeau, Jorge Sereno, and senior Jalen Singleton with perfect attendance, Cindy Vasquez, and Principal Michelle Verdun. Perfect attendance.
These guys are taller than me.
And they're on the downslope.
Just gotta get in between there.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. That's stop. Not you, Miss America. This guy. All right, here we go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Mr. Dunlop.
Only.
Point had 80.52% represented by Janessa DeJokum, Ivan Samuels, Derek Thomas, Miss Jeanette Williams-Grogan, Miss Brenda McCoy, Miss Vicki Venable, and Principal Tricia Times. Hey, how's it going? Thank you. We congratulate these campuses and their students for their continued effort to strive for good attendance. Thank you.
No, it's the second.
Next item on our agenda is citizens' participation, and we do have one gentleman, Matthew Manuel. You come up to the podium. Before you get started, everyone, you have a handout that Mr. Manuel has provided for us. This is the time the board will hear any public concerns or public comments from those that have signed up to address the board. Before hearing such matters, I remind the speaker that you are limited in your presentation to 5 minutes and that you should not identify any teachers, administrators, staff, or students by name in addressing your concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy BE legal, the board cannot consider or take action on your concerns at this meeting unless it pertains to an item on the posted agenda for the meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda at a future meeting. Mr. Manuel, am I saying your name right?
Munir.
Munir,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Mr. Munir, you have 5 minutes. Ms. Woods is the secretary. She will give you a warning when you have 1 minute left.
Okay, then I'll get started. This is going to be brief, but...
Okay. The floor is yours.
All right. About a month ago, I contacted the SFA elementary school about putting a fence around my property, and the principal, Laura Smith, let me know that they're also putting this fence up, so no need for me to have a double fence on a fence. I appreciated that. I asked her if my kids could continue to walk to school with the access that they have now, and you'll see that in this presentation. She said, yes, it's not a problem. It hasn't been an incident all year, and it's been welcoming to have the kiddos in the school, so I appreciated that. If you can turn the page, the second slide, it shows the green line where my kids currently walk to school from our house. It's about 90 feet. After the fence goes up, the red line represents where they'll have to go to school. If you can turn the page again, right now they walk around slow-moving traffic, if it's moving at all. Usually when I take them, the cars are only parked. When they come home in the evening, they're taken by an aide, and they're released at that point right there to the house. These are, if you can turn the page, these are kids on the way to school about 90 feet from the front door. If you can turn the page. Right here's a picture of the car line stacking up for cars to pick up. The fence is going in right now as we speak. There's no room for a sidewalk on this side of the fence or this side of the road. if you go ahead and turn the page. The top arrow on the left says my property line. That's where my kids would have to walk from the house or from our property in front of the fence down by Massey Tompkins. They'd have to cross this car rider line right here with no crosswalk and no crossing guards. They'd also have to cross 2 ditches. If you go ahead and turn the page. This is a picture from my property line to that intersection that we just looked at. Here's another driveway that they'd have to cross to get to school. If you can turn the page. This is security aspect, I understand. So this is my fence going up. There's pictures that I've been doing right now. I'm in the process of building fence. I work shift work, and so I can't do it all at once. If you can turn the page. Where my tractor sits, that's approximately where my gate will be. Again, the property will have a fence all the way around it, and it'll be gated upon completion. If you turn the page one more time, these are pictures of other Goose Creek elementary schools with gate access to the property. And if you turn the page one more time. So this right here, adding the access will benefit the school in more ways. If there is any incident that would provide first responders a secondary way in, it's also in my opinion that you put another gate access on the other side of Stephen F. Austin. You turn the page. Here's a picture of a gate access code if you want. The last page is a picture of just a metal gate. I talked to Miss Brenda that's in charge of the project. She told me that it was a bonded project and that it had to be built to specification. When I gave my concerns about walking on Massey Tompkins traffic, she within the hour made a provision to move the fence off the roadway, which I appreciated. I asked her if you could do that, would you consider making a provision to put a gate in for my kids? She said it's not her decision. And she referred me to Dr. Price's office. So I called Dr. Price. I had a meeting with him at the house. And Dr. Price's words at the end of our meeting, impressive. So I took that one step further, and you have another letter there attached to this. I contacted the police department, asked for their security assessment team to come out and do a security assessment on the property, and this was his findings. The pictures of the gate and the codes is what he presented, so I thought I'd put it in the slide.
Mr. Manier, you have 1 minute remaining.
Yes, ma'am. I don't guess I have anything else. Just when would I know what kind of decision you'd make on this one way or the other?
Well, at this time,
I know you're not doing it now.
right, we would need the administration to make a recommendation to the board because we act on recommendations from them. So if the administration feels that this is something the board should consider, then they would bring a proposal to us at some future meeting. I couldn't give you a timeline.
And the administration being who?
That'd be
Austin administration?
That would be me.
Okay.
That would be
That'd
Mr.
be
O'Brien.
me and the team, the administrative team that considers all considerations. What we'll do, the first time I've seen the security assessment that you provided tonight, it's the first time I've seen it. So we'll take this information that you presented tonight into consideration and be able to make a recommendation or not to the Board of Trustees following that.
All right. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is approval of minutes from the March 20th, 2017 meeting. The minutes were distributed to us in our board packet.
I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Ms. Laredo to approve the minutes of the March 20th, 2017 minutes. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand if you were present. Okay. And Ms. Woods, you were absent, right? So we have 5 in the affirmative, 1 absent, 1 abstention. The motion carries. Item 6, discussion items, superintendent's report. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, this evening we have Dr. Ruth Olkus here with us to present the Baytown Healthy Community presentation, in which she will be going over some of the activities that she's been involved with and meeting with not only Goose Creek personnel, but also with community members as well. Come on up, Dr. Olkus.
Welcome.
I do do have some folders. I can pass them or I can leave them after, whichever you prefer. I'll pass them on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to leave one right here. Right, because we have one absent. He'll be joining us shortly. Do you have one?
Hi, I'm Ruth Beckes. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I would like to talk about our Baytown Healthy Community Initiative. I am a Director of Healthy Communities at MD Anderson Cancer Center. As you may already know, about 50% of cancers are preventable by taking the knowledge that we know now and applying it to everyone. At MD Anderson, we think it's critically important to take that information and knowledge and bring it to people in their daily lives. And so one way that we're doing that is within our Healthy Communities Initiative. Our goal is to mobilize the community to promote health and stop cancer before it starts. Most of us know someone who's been impacted by cancer in some way, and this is an opportunity for us to build a model where we can bring cancer prevention information and do it in a community setting that can really change how we address cancer overall. We do that by raising community awareness of the importance of healthy behaviors, by creating and advancing community-based strategies, and by increasing appropriate health behavior activities within 5 specific areas. So those are preventive care, physical activity, diet, UV radiation exposure, and tobacco use. And in your folder, I included a little bit more information about why we target those 5 areas. But taken together, they can have a huge impact on cancer incidence and mortality. Tobacco use is certainly one of the biggest areas, but obesity is linked with, we think, about 11 cancers, and so diet and physical activity are quickly coming behind them as an area that we'd like to target. So it's all well and good to have these kinds of initiatives that you want to do, but you need to have support in order to do them. And so we've been so generously received a gift from ExxonMobil for $10 million to start a healthy community initiative. The gift was given in 2014 to pick a community within Harris County. And so we wanted to pick a community that would be primed for this kind of opportunity. A community that both had some needs within these 5 target areas, but also a community that had the ability to act on recommendations and had the infrastructure to implement. And so Baytown came straight to the top of our list. There are definitely areas for improvement within each of these areas, but there are also really great resources here within the community. You've got a great school district, you have a really engaged city, you have Lee College, you have actively engaged nonprofit organizations, you have a great hospital system. And so the idea was, how could we pick a community of this size and invest $10 million in cancer risk reduction and really make a difference? And so we're targeting diet and physical activity first as a part of that. I have a bias as having worked in schools and with schools for many, many years, and so I know is the second largest employer within this community, as well as a group who impacts the lives of nearly a third, or maybe more than a third, of the full community. Engaging with the school community is critically important. And so we have been doing a lot of work to gather information about Baytown and about the community and what to address it specifically. And so we engaged advisors from lots of different organizations who have been doing this work for many years, wanted to get their thoughts and their feedback on how best to do this kind of work. And we've learned a lot. We did a really thorough community assessment. We've looked at, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or some reports that have mentioned Baytown in some form or fashion. We've done interviews with about 30 different individuals. We've looked at the Imagine Baytown reports, and we've really tried to understand as best we can where is the opportunity to positively impact cancer incidence and risk reduction within the community. We finalized a database of strategies, really looking at what evidence-based strategies could we bring to Baytown to have the biggest impact. We have a wonderful steering committee who's been so helpful to all of us, and we really appreciate Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Foxworth sitting on that steering committee with us and being a big part of this group. We've hosted 4 steering committee meetings. We gratefully have had several in this room, so appreciate that from Goose Creek CISD as well. And we've developed a community action plan to address specifically diet and physical activity, but we hope to address all 5 target areas in the next several years as this initiative rolls out. So I'm just giving you sort of a high level. Again, there's more information in your folder, and my card is in there, so I welcome you to contact me at any point in time and answer any questions. And I hope you'll all be engaged participants as we roll this out over the next several years. So just to give you a quick vision, we believe in starting with our youngest citizens. We know that they are critically important to engagement within this kind of work, and we also know that they can't do it alone. We need to engage their families, and we really want to engage also those people that spend every day with them, their role models, those within the school community, and also leverage opportunities, teachable moments within the healthcare profession as well to really create a vision of something that is different. Again, build a model that could be leveraged in other communities and around the country. MD Anderson's role in this is really to serve as what we call a backbone organization. I've worked with hundreds of communities over the last 15 years. I've seen it go incredibly well. I've also seen it go not as well, where maybe a community has a great idea, but they don't have the resources to implement it. Or maybe a group comes in and sort of tells them how to do it, and that never goes that well. And other times people come in and have an intervention, try and solve a gap, and then that group leaves, and then that gap still exists when they're gone. So we really believe in engaging the full community in this initiative and doing what is best for the community here, so that when this gift is over and things are in a different place, that we're able to really see the successes move on long beyond our time here. So we do believe we bring expertise and capacity building and technical assistance that we can bring to the community. We have resources that we can help support this work. We can help with the evaluation and some of the other pieces of that as well, but our job is to get people talking and to get people implementing these interventions so that we can have a huge impact in healthy behaviors. So we have 4 collaborating organizations. We went through a rigorous process of selecting the organizations. I will not bore you with the details of that, but we're a state institution, so trust me, there was a process. And we have 4 for now. As I said, it's a 7 to 10 year initiative. I'm not sure if I did say that, but we'll have about 5 years still. So our first 4 are Goose Creek CISD, YMCA of Greater Houston doing specific work here in Baytown, the United Way of Greater Baytown and Chambers County, and then Houston Methodist San Jacinto. Later this summer, we plan to do a more formal announcement of this initiative and tell the community more about it, but wanted to, because Goose Creek CISD is such a critical part of it, wanted to be sure to tell you now. And we also have support from all of the additional organizations represented within our steering committee. And just wanted to talk just a little bit about the specific projects we've been talking about with Goose Creek CISD. So the first one would be to hire a dedicated staff person to focus on a coordinated approach to school health. The second would be to deliver and evaluate the CATCH program to more than 15,000 elementary and middle schools over the next 3 years. There's a lot more information about the CATCH program within your folders as well. It's an evidence-based, research-based program. It's been around for about 30 years. I would imagine many of you have heard of it before. And they meet the Texas mandate for delivering a coordinated approach to child health within the schools, and I believe it's a part of the Goose Creek CISD system already. And so this will be a more integrated approach and have some additional evaluation components that will come with it. We know that the schools can't do this if they don't have the infrastructure to implement, and so we've also included in that looking at what equipment and infrastructure would be needed to support physical activity, both during and after the school day, and also thinking about how the community could leverage physical infrastructure within the schools as well as appropriate. And then hosting family nights to empower every family at every campus to be engaged in health and wellness as well. That's the first part of it. And then through partnerships, Goose Creek CISD will also be able to work with the YMCA to offer after-school programming in part called Catch Kids Club, which is physical activity, wellness information for the kids in a structured format after school, as well as offer sports clinics at 2 of our elementary schools. Again, we hope to roll these out to more places as well, but that's where we'd get started. Also to offer the YMCA's diabetes prevention program to 225 employees and families. Maybe you're wondering why a diabetes prevention program, but it has really excellent success in increasing physical activity and decreasing weight within the population that it serves, and those are the same kinds of things we're looking for cancer risk reduction, and has a really great evidence base that it works for that. Also capitalizing on some other events that are already happening within Goose Creek CISD. Houston Methodist participates in a physicals event, and we want to capture those parents and the other siblings that are there to participate in learning more about their health and wellness. And then delivering MD Anderson's free Aspire tobacco prevention program to all high school students. So that's sort of the big pieces of things. Overall, we think that through our 4 collaborating organizations, we can hopefully reach all of the residents here in Baytown, and again, really build a model for something much bigger and work on increasing healthy behaviors here. We'll reach about 66% of the community through this effort, in large part thanks to reaching the students within Goose Creek CISD, and the staff here will be trained as well. We'll work on increasing healthy behaviors, increasing physical activity, increasing access to places for physical activity, increasing access to cancer-related screening tests and information, increasing access to healthy food, and increasing healthy food consumption, as well as additional things that will be targeted to each individual program that will roll out. And as I said, this is for diet and physical activity, but we do hope to attend to all 5 of the major target areas for cancer risk reduction. So as I said, it's a pretty unique initiative. So we have the investment of $10 million from ExxonMobil, plus this really amazing steering committee and groups of individuals who've come together to support this, and the expertise and knowledge that MD Anderson can bring into this. We think that could lead to a healthy community, or healthier community here in Baytown. So obviously there's many good things already happening. So that's just a little background, and I'm happy to answer questions now or at another time.
So your full amount of funding is $10 million, is that
Yes.
correct? And that all came from ExxonMobil?
Yes.
I guess at some point I was confused, thinking some of that was from MD Anderson, but it's to allow MD Anderson to implement the program?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you.
And we hope to apply for other grants and other gifts to receive more funding to support it as well.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, very generous gift from ExxonMobil to MD.
What's the projected rollout date?
Projected rollout date. The next step will be contracting and sort of service agreements, and so just depending on how long that takes, will sort of be our rollout. But we hope to be up and running before the school year, is part of what we're working on for a timeline. We could do the trainings as appropriate.
I wanted to just give credit where credit's due. Ruth first introduced herself, not as a doctor, and she said Ruth, and she insisted on Ruth, and I didn't catch her last name pronunciation correctly, so I mispronounced it introducing you tonight. Ruth Rikas? That's right, okay. Dr. Rikas also mentioned that what the vision and the goal of this program is to be here long after any of us maybe are here. And we have a really close example of something like this. We had federal funds available for us for our Communities in School program. And the federal funding, as sometimes funding does, came to an end. But Goose Creek believed in the product and believed in the impact that Communities in School programs is having. And I think that correlates well with what she's talking about here, is that we have a healthy communities program that will outlast us all, that we see the value emphasis onto the rest of the campuses throughout the district in the years to come. So I just wanted to cover that as well. And thank you for your tireless efforts. If you've not run a steering committee, it can be challenging, especially one with so many different factions across our community in it. So thank you for coordinating that and setting it up. Appreciate you. Other questions from the board?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to action items. Action item A, we have a consideration of approval of entering into an agreement with the Goose Creek CISD Education Foundation for the hiring of a full-time administrator to oversee foundation activities. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, I'd like to cover this if I could. Recommended action from administration is to approve option number 3 as presented by the Education Foundation representatives with modifications as follows. The first modification would be that GCCISD and the Education Foundation share the financial expense of this full-time director, including salary and benefits, 50-50, not to exceed $50,000 per year for a 2-year period. And then secondly, that the Education Foundation at its own discretion may elect to employ the full-time administrator, as the district will no longer provide financial support following the 2018-19 school year. And third, the district will continue to provide support and peripheral services to the Education Foundation, including office space, utility assistance as needed. As everyone here knows, on February 27th, the Education Foundation presented a request to the Board of Trustees to consider various funding options to support the hiring of a full-time director of the Education Foundation, which is currently being operated by volunteer efforts. Administration has researched the legal implication and recommended modifications as listed in order to support the startup costs associated with the Education Foundation hiring a director. To summarize that, the employee at the administration's recommendation would be the employee of the Education Foundation. And we do want to support, administration sees a value in supporting the Education Foundation to continue their efforts to, again, support our teachers in the classroom, providing some of the things that are not in the regular budget and enriching the education of our students. So we can support this recommendation as presented. We welcome any conversation or discussion.
I'd like to move for approval.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When it says not to exceed 50,000 per year, is that total, or the district is not going to pay? So the district could pay up to $100,000 over a 2-year period?
That's correct. That would be the limit. So we don't want to set the parameters on the Education Foundation electing to pay someone more than that or less than that, but that would be the investment on the part of Goose Creek to support this program.
I'll second the motion on the floor.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Laredo and a second from Ms. Woods to approve the recommended action as presented this evening. Further discussion.
So to clarify, this is an employee of the Goose Creek Education Foundation. They will hire them, they'll supervise them, they'll evaluate them. Is that correct, Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, ma'am, but I do want to make note that in number 3, it says that we will continue to assist in providing services, peripheral services. That would include, if upon request, I would have a delegate to sit on an interview committee to assist in those types of activities. So we're not pushing it all onto them, but it is a shared investment for us as well. But it would be ultimately their decision, not ours. We wouldn't guide and direct that. It would be up to the Education Foundation to ask for that assistance.
So if,
Go ahead. You
no,
go ahead.
sorry.
You go ahead.
So if I'm reading number 1 correctly, if they pay them, that's up to 50,000, but it's 50-50. So if they pay them, for example, 60, we would pay 30, and they would pay 30. Correct.
That would be correct. Well,
including benefits and
including all expenses, yes. So the maximum liability to the district at this point is 50,000 per year for 2 years, as proposed by administration.
So I know that the GCEF is a 501c3, and we don't want to do any harm to their 501c3 status. So I've got a few questions that will relate to that. It says here that we will continue to provide support and peripheral services to the Education Foundation, including office space and utility assistance as needed. What is the monetary value of that? That's number 3 on our recommended
So
action.
the in-kind services, I believe we researched and presented that. It's less than around $50,000 annually, including the support services we're offering now at this time.
So if they were listing the donation from the school district, it would be $50,000 of taxpayer money because it's coming from the school district as in-kind, and then the potential of another $50,000 annually for the salary as well.
That is correct.
Okay. And then will this support that we are listing here, this number 3, is that computed as part of the 50-50 split, or is that in addition to the 50-50 split on the
The
salary?
in-kind would be in addition to. So
Okay. And so currently, I believe the school district is giving money from their American Express card revenue, the monies that they get, to the Education Foundation. I think in the past 4 years, the school district has given $36,000 total to the Education Foundation. Is that part of this $50,000, or is that we'll be giving them the $50,000 in kind, the $50,000 salary, and an additional $8,000 or $9,000 per year off of the American Express card?
that was not computed in this. It was when the Education Foundation began, it was something that was offered in addition to the employee contribution. Those things were negotiated at the onset of the Education Foundation, to my knowledge, and those are currently in the system.
Okay, so
Mr. O'Brien, if I can say something about that. The monies from the American Express card purchases are monies that are actually from American Express. They're considered rebates or
That's correct.
benefits that are actually designated to charitable organizations. It's not money that would come back to the district from American Express in any other form or fashion. It's benefits that you can designate through your American Express card program to a charitable foundation.
So they're designating the...
Right. So it's not actually money that belongs to the district.
Okay.
Does the district currently do that with any other charitable activity?
The only thing I can think of is United Way. We have opportunity for employees to donate United Way as well.
But it's not,
Similarly.
not school.
I'm talking
rebate.
about the actual credit card that's been brought to the discussion, that it obviously you can designate the rebate to charitable organizations. Is the Education Foundation the only recipient of that money that's earned through the rebate process? Because
Yes.
that's not anything that I was aware of.
No, that's correct. It is the only recipient.
So I'd like to ask Mr. Peebles a question. In your opinion, is this arrangement with the monies anything that could potentially jeopardize the 501c3 status of the Goose Creek Education Foundation?
Ms. Colby, I'd have to answer that, I'm not a tax lawyer. That would take someone with tax experience, I think, on that. I can see where it could. I haven't done any research on that particularly. It could be a problem.
Mr. Richard, is this something that maybe we need to wait to make sure that because I would not want us to jeopardize your 501c3 status.
Right. And this is the first that's come up that enter into this kind of agreement could jeopardize that, and I don't know the answer to that either. I would think maybe the Education Foundation would want to.
They have an officer
research
here.
that.
They have several people here, I think.
Please approach.
Hello, Mr. Santana.
Good evening.
So,
Yeah,
Mr. Santana, that's first I've heard about the rebates from the credit card. So how does the foundation handle those type? Are they considered charitable donations?
Yes.
From the school district?
Not from the school district.
Not from the school district.
From American Express.
Do they
If you
come
look,
in the
if
name
you look
of
at
the
our
school district?
financials, they're listed as charitable contributions from American Express, not the school district.
Were those totals included in the information that was provided
No.
by the foundation?
No, sir.
It was not. Okay.
I would like to just make a comment. When we first looked at doing this, the Education Foundation did not do research to see what it would take for us to be an employer. That was not part of our conversation. So I would say at this time, if that's the direction that we're going, we may have to take a step back, do as Mr. Peebles said, kind of consult with a tax attorney to ensure that we're not, I don't think we would violate our 501c3. And there's 501c3s employed, have employees.
Yes.
It's just how you manage the accounting function. But we would then have to have an accountant to manage our business. We currently do not. We have a bookkeeper that's just tracking income and expense. So we would need to look at options. The concern that I would have is that whether we could attract a qualified candidate not with us being the employer and not Goose Creek CISD. That's the value to reaching out to the community out there and finding someone who's qualified. That's why when we talked about earlier that this person would report to the superintendent, that's in our current memorandum of understanding. This was an addition to the memorandum of understanding and the support the school district currently provides to the foundation. That would give this person a little more credibility within the school district and their support for the Education Foundation by reporting to the superintendent.
And the current memorandum of understanding was established in 2010, and the last line item on that memorandum of understanding says, should the district employ an education director? So,
yeah, and if you don't employ, they wouldn't report to the superintendent. So we would have an employee reporting to a volunteer board, which that does happen, but we would then need to employ additional support in the way of consultants for accounting, et cetera.
My
So-
concern, if this would become a Goose Creek employee, is that we just recently went through 4 really tough financial years, and we had to trim staff wherever we could to get a balanced budget last year. If we were to add this position, we are in essence adding, if we take it on full-time, no matter what the agreement is, eventually this would be a full-time employee of Goose Creek, another administrative salary. And I know the numbers that y'all presented to us when you first, what you wanted was something in the executive director range, and that you had a consultant that suggested to you what the salary of that person might possibly be. I don't
4 years
see
ago.
us taking on that expense right now when we have principals that are saying, I need a teacher, I need whatever, we need more teachers. We have administrators saying that their administration staff needs to be increased. That's why I don't know if I can support something that's going to be the district employee, because I've seen in the past when the district has had grant employees, when the grant went away, that employee felt that we had to find a place for them. And if this wouldn't work out after 2 years, we would be stuck with an employee making possibly $100,000. And without doing what the goal is, and that's to triple their value in the next 2 years.
Correct.
Or you, at one time, said maybe double, but.
3 to 1 return. We're currently returning over twice the investment the school district currently makes into the foundation. The numbers that were presented 2 years ago were from 2 or 3 years ago. They're not recent contributions. We probably have a little less support from the school district today than we had, say, 3 or 4 years ago.
On the in-kind part?
On the support of staff.
Okay, the support of staff.
Support of
Okay.
staff, yes.
But you have more income on the donation side from the employees of Goose Creek than you had 3 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That was one of the goals and from the consultant. So as a volunteer organization, we worked on the things that we could work on internally and building the Get on the Bus campaign up and getting employees to contribute and to be a part with a small contribution from each employee that totals a lot of money was part of what we as a volunteer organization felt we could take on. However, the engaging the community on a full-time basis, writing applications for grants, establishing a campus council where there's a point of contact at each campus throughout the year, strengthening our community relationships with our industry partners is something that we as a volunteer organization have just not been able to grow.
And I understand that
That's
part.
the focal point of this person. It's not just to bring money in, but it's also to, if you look at our goals, it's to strengthen, continue to grow relationships with the community on behalf of the Education Foundation. We compare to other education foundations, and if you look at income from others, they seem to be really outdoing us in a big way. But what we chose to do in the very beginning was to not defer any existing contributions to this school district. Say, for instance, ExxonMobil, they give a lot of money to the school district already. Our intent was not to defer any or reroute any of those contributions through the foundation just to grow it. We were looking for new money. And that's the money that we have is all new money. It didn't take away from any other program or contributions. There are other foundations in the area who funnel all contributions to their school district through the Education Foundation, and they're in the millions of dollars. I think if we funneled everything through the foundation, we would look just as good, and we could hire an employee and not even be concerned about it. But that was not our goal.
So, Mr. Santana, if the employee is going to be an employee of the Education Foundation, if we vote tonight for that, do you want us to postpone a vote until the foundation has had an opportunity to take a look at that, make some decisions regarding that?
It's difficult for me to speak on behalf of our board because we've not had this conversation. I would say that going the route of the foundation being responsible for employing this director is not a conversation that we've had at even our executive committee level. So, I did have a few thoughts as I heard the conversation or the presentation a few minutes ago that I think the simpler way would be to contract that person through a company that can hire the individual and maybe provide a few benefits, and handle the payroll, deductions and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that we are set up right now to handle an employee. I think that was part of our goal over the next couple of years as we look to migrate in the direction of being self-sustaining, but we just haven't had that conversation yet.
So
I
in
would
the
also
2 years, if the person was not returning the value of the investment, it would be a termination at that point, would you think, based upon this recommendation tonight?
Yeah, part of the roles and responsibilities includes a return on the investment. That's just part of any grant writer's job. You don't pay them a salary and they bring in less than what they make. Our consultant felt very strongly that an experienced grant writer, knowing that there are grants available out there for education foundations, could easily return 3 to 1 in addition to what we are currently doing. That's not, again, to replace what we're doing or employee contributions that are counted in that. Our goal is to grow, not to just replace where it was coming from. I would say that from the Education Foundation standpoint, if you recall, our contributions are coming from 8 years of retaining some of our income for long-range planning or to establish an endowment fund, and we're at about the $100,000 plus mark. So we would have to look at whether we believe the success of this individual as a standalone employee and not connected to the district would be a good use of our investment, because we could be at the same time, the district, I'm not going to minimize $100,000 in 2 years, but that's all we have to invest as a foundation. And it took us 8 years to build that up. We believe we can continue to grow that, but it would be dependent on the success of this individual that's hired. So we always felt that the district could attract a very qualified candidate, a high-performing individual supported by the district administration, and be successful. And we would be willing, as we mentioned to begin with, to invest our funds in that scenario. I believe, would not be as great. I don't think that person would have the visibility and the support that we had envisioned if they were an employee of the school district, and we might have to take a step back and consider whether that would be wise of us to use that $100,000 in that way. I would be looking at, if we're going to use the $100,000, we may look for a retired grant writer, we may part-time it, we may come up with a different compensation plan and minimize the risk of losing that money. I have confidence that if this employee came on board as we originally thought they would, that they would be successful. The district would receive the return on the investment. Our investment would return itself to us as well in future years of growth. So I'm not sure how to leave you with that, but I don't know that your vote tonight that we would just move forward with and do that.
Mr. Richard, I know that we have a motion and a second on the floor. I think it would be wise if I would be glad to make a motion to at least postpone this vote until the Education Foundation has had an opportunity to make a decision.
I might offer, based on your vote tonight, that could direct us as well. I mean, if you voted in favor, we would at least have something to discuss. If you voted against, we'd know that maybe we could come back and discuss a little bit more. But either way, that's up to you.
I can just rescind my motion, right? Correct?
Yes, you could. Mr. Peoples? Yes. Sir? If
Of the second.
the second approves. Or Ms. Coffey could make a motion above that one, but that we would have to act on which motion first, Ms. Coffey's or the original?
Mine.
I thought it's the original. That's what okay.
I'd like to rescind my motion until we until the Education Foundation can do it, have their discussion.
I'll second his new motion.
You rescind your second, you mean?
I'll rescind my second
Okay.
of his motion.
Thank you. All right. At this time, then, since the motion and the second have been rescinded, we will not take action on this recommended action tonight. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santana.
Okay. Action item B, consent agenda.
This evening on consent agenda, we have number 1, Capturing Kids' Hearts, training by the Flippin Group, LLC. Number 2, instructional materials for proclamation 2017. Number 3, foreign trade zone tax equivalency and contribution agreement and issue letter of non-opposition. Number 4, resolution extending the depository contract for funds of Goose Creek CISD. Number 5, competitive sealed proposal, CSP, evaluation, rankings, and selection of delegate authority to the superintendent or designee to negotiate and approve the contract with TBD for the construction of the Agri-Science Center expansion and renovation. My apologies, I have a
Pepper Lawson.
a name there, Pepper Lawson. A competitive sealed proposal, CSP, evaluation, ranking, and selection to delegate authority to the superintendent or designee to negotiate and approve the contract with TDR to negotiate and approve the contract. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing renovation packages, number 4, MEP 4. Number 7, amendment to Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees election order approved on February 13th, 2017 for single member District 4. Number 8, tax refunds.
Are any of these actions, any of these items something the board would like to see voted on individually?
I have B1.
B1? Anybody else?
I move we approve consent agenda items B2 through 8.
A second.
Okay, let the record show Mr. Poppy has shown up at 7:37. We have a motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Ms. Cockrell to approve items B2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on any of those 7 items? Okay. All in favor of approval of those 7 items, please raise your right hand. We have 7 for unanimous. Okay, moving on to B1, Capturing Kids' Hearts training by the Flippin Group, Mr. Laredo.
Well, I saw that it's under Dr. Duarte and Dr. Ramonique's.
Right.
I just want to know how effective this program is. I mean, I know it's been around for a long time.
Yes, sir. It's
If there's any other...
well, this is an effort we've taken to minimize or reduce expenses. In the past, we've sent people to the training, and here we're able to maximize participation by bringing them to us. And it's a workshop here where, as you see the details there on page 22.
Mr. Laredo, I don't know if I'm out of line here, but I'm going to talk from an administrative standpoint from when I was on a campus as principal. And when teachers went through this training, there was a remarkable change in the way that they handle their classroom and their individual students in terms of building relationships. There had been times also in my past that I had asked a teacher to go to this training because I felt they would benefit from it. And when they came back, they were much more accommodating to issues that we may have been discussing. So I support the Flippin Group. I think they have good training for teachers.
Are all teachers required to go to this training?
No, sir. It's not a requirement of every teacher, but it's an opportunity that we seek to send teachers to broaden their knowledge level. And I've had the similar results to Mr. Richard as well.
Do we have good attendance by teachers at these events?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Thank you. I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
All right, a motion from Mr. Laredo, a second from Ms. Woods to approve consent agenda item 1, Capturing Kids' Hearts training. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion passes 7 in the affirmative. Unanimous. Okay. Next item is future board agenda items, board trainings, and board meetings. First off, let's talk about future board agenda.
Did we
What
vote
did
on
I
the
miss?
remaining consent agenda items?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes. They passed.
Good
Okay.
deal.
Okay. Future board agenda items, any board member have anything they would like to suggest for a future board meeting?
Can we get an, I don't know if an update or if it's whatever the, I don't know if to do because it is a bond item, but in regards to what Mr. Manier came to earlier in the board meeting, whether we have to vote on it or if the administration just chooses to take care of it, if, I'd like to know what, maybe by the next meeting.
Okay. In other words, you're asking that as the administration discusses the item that was brought forth in the citizens' participation, for them to report back to us if any items, if any action's going to be taken on his
As
request?
an action item or as an update?
Yeah, okay.
I think that we bring some very good value to the table.
Okay. Any other board items?
I know that I've said this and then I pulled it back, but I would like to see us put on the agenda soon, next meeting hopefully, a vote on our scheduling and we need all of the information that we got at the last board meeting where this was discussed. The newest information was presented here and we saw it just, in the presentation. We don't have a copy of it at all. So I'd like to see that. And then I'd like us to be able to, have sufficient information to vote so that if buses need to be purchased, that can be considered as part of the package of what am I trying to say? The budget, thank you. The budget for next year.
Okay, so what I've heard is you would like a vote on the scheduling proposals, but first you would like everyone to be presented a hard copy of the last presentation
It doesn't have
that
to
we
be a
had.
hard copy. It can be sent
Okay.
on email.
An
just-
electronic or
yeah,
hard copy.
Something.
Shared with every
Right.
board member so
Right.
we could peruse it on our own time.
Right.
And then have the administration bring a recommendation back.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right, moving on to item 2, board trainings. I know we were asked this week to consider which summer SLI trainings that each board member would be going to if we're planning on it. So please get with Ms. Craig so that she can be, is it, Ms. Craig, are you handling that in Ms. Garcia's absence? Okay. 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 Any proposed changes in our board meeting calendar that was sent out in the last board report? Any requests for additional board meetings to be added? Or any changes? Nope. Okay, good. All right. Next item is item D, is moving into closed meeting. Okay. The board will now recess into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, and I believe that's all of the items that we would be covering in closed session tonight. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting. Return to open session. Point out for the record that no action was taken while the board was in deliberation. Moving on to F, consideration of personnel. Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, at this time, administration recommends that you accept the resignations and retirements as presented.
Do we also have a couple of elections?
We do, and administration would recommend you accept the elections of Megan DeLude of Goose Creek Memorial High School and Marcus Ebo, Goose Creek Memorial High School.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Laredo, a second from Ms. Coffey to approve resignations, retirements, and elections as presented in our board packet. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Abstention. That motion will pass 6 in the positive, 1 abstention. Motion passes 6-4, 1 abstain.
Right.
Okay.
Who
Who
abstained?
abstained?
I did.
Oh.
I abstain. Okay. Item 8, adjournment.
Motion. Motion.
Motion from Mr. Poppy, second from Mr. Sampson to adjourn at 8:12. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. We are adjourned.